Before the waters rose, before the sound of rain became the endless rhythm of the earth, there was silence. It was not the silence of emptiness, but of waiting, the quiet of a world holding its breath beneath skies that grew heavier with each passing day. The ground was dry. The rivers flowed as they always had. The sun rose and set without disturbance. And yet something in the air whispered of change. It was a silence that carried weight, as though the clouds themselves pressed down upon the earth, as though the horizon knew of a secret that had not yet been spoken. In this hush, a man named Noah moved slowly, steadily, guided by a voice that others did not hear, shaped by a vision that others did not see. While the world around him busied itself with markets and feasts, with songs and labor, with laughter and forgetfulness, Noah worked upon an ark. Its timbers rose like ribs of some vast creature, its frame stretching against the sky, its scent of fresh wood carrying across the fields. To those who passed, it was a curiosity, perhaps a folly, a monument to a fear they did not share. But to Noah it was obedience, patience, preparation. Each strike of hammer upon wood was not noise but prayer. Each plank joined was not only timber but trust. Each hour given was not wasted but woven into eternity. Imagine the scene. The ark standing upon dry ground. A ship built not beside rivers or seas but upon earth itself. Its hull immense, its structure strange to those who saw it. Children laughed, elders shook their heads, neighbors whispered in doubt. Yet Noah continued, his hands steady, his heart calm. Around him the earth seemed unchanged, the fields ripe, the trees full, the skies clear. And yet beneath this normality lingered that silence, that waiting, that sense of inevitability. The world seemed not to know, and yet all of creation seemed to wait. The animals moved still across the plains, their herds grazing, their flocks resting. The birds sang from branches as though nothing had altered, their wings flashing in sunlight, their songs drifting upon air. Yet even among them there was a rhythm that seemed different, a subtle turning of their paths, as though they too sensed the coming change, as though their instincts already whispered of a gathering. The winds carried no storm yet, but their touch upon the skin seemed cooler, steadier, filled with an unspoken promise. Noah's family moved beside him, gathering tools, preparing provisions, storing food, filling jars with water. They did not ask questions in fear, for they too trusted. They too listened. They too felt the weight of silence upon the air. Their steps were measured, their voices low, their work unhurried but constant, as though they knew that time, while still patient, was not endless. They prepared not with panic but with calm inevitability, as one prepares for the night by lighting a lamp, as one prepares for the harvest by sharpening tools. The flood had not yet come, but eternity already pressed near. And so the world rested in this balance, between laughter and warning, between doubt and trust, between silence and storm. The sun fell each evening behind the hills. The stars emerged upon the canopy of night. The moon glowed softly above, and still no rain fell. Yet within the stillness there was tension, as though every star knew of waters waiting, as though every breath of wind carried the scent of seas not yet seen. It was the calm that precedes all tempests, the stillness before the sound of waves, the silence before the storm. As you rest within this vision, let the hush of that moment be your own lullaby. Feel the weight of silence upon the earth, as the weight of blankets upon you. Hear the faint sound of hammer upon wood as the rhythm of your breath. See the arc rising slowly against the horizon, as the glow behind your eyes. Let the waiting not be anxious but soothing, not frightening but steady. For in every silence there is calm, and in every storm there is passage, and in every passage there is rest. And if this quiet beginning has carried you gently into stillness, if the silence before the storm, has eased your thoughts, you may, in your own time, choose to let your presence be felt here as well. You may like this video softly. Leave a comment sharing which part of Noah's story rests most vividly within your imagination. Share it with another dreamer who longs for calm horizons. Or subscribe so that each new tale may find you whenever the night is long and sleep is near. There is no urgency, only invitation. As soft as the silence before rain, as gentle as the hush of eternity. Block 2. The first drops of rain. The silence lingered long, stretching like a veil across the earth, until at last it began to tremble. Until at last the stillness gave way to a sound so soft it could almost be mistaken for nothing at all. It was the sound of the first raindrops striking the dust. One drop, then another, each falling with a gentleness that belied what was to come. The sky, heavy and brooding, finally exhaled, and the breath of heaven touched the earth in water. It did not roar, it did not rush, it did not overwhelm, not yet. It began as a whisper, as if the storm were speaking softly at first, announcing itself with patience, with inevitability, with calm. Imagine Noah standing before the ark, his face lifted toward the darkening sky. Around him the air had grown heavy, filled with the scent of wet earth, of clouds releasing what they had long carried. The first drop slid across his skin, cool and steady, not frightening but confirming. What he had long prepared for, what he had built with patient hands, what he had trusted though others laughed, was now beginning. Each raindrop was a prayer answered, each shimmer of water upon wood a reminder that obedience had been woven into eternity. The ark, waiting upon dry ground, seemed to breathe as the water touched its sides, as though it knew its time had come. The world around him stirred in confusion. Children lifted their faces in wonder. Elders frowned in unease. Neighbors paused in their work, listening to the soft patter of drops upon rooftops, upon leaves, upon soil. Rain was not unknown to them, yet this was different. It did not fall and stop, it did not scatter and fade. It continued, slow but steady, a rhythm unbroken, a whisper that did not end. The laughter that had once mocked the rising ark faltered now, replaced with questions unspoken, replaced with glances exchanged, replaced with a silence more uneasy than before. The animals, too, shifted in their movements. Birds ruffled their wings, restless upon branches. Cattle lifted their heads from grass, their ears twitching at the sound of water striking earth. Dogs barked low and uncertain, while sheep pressed close together, as though instinct told them what reason could not. In the distance, lions prowled restlessly. Elephants trumpeted faintly. The wild things of the earth all stirred as though an invisible hand had brushed against them, calling them, guiding them. Noah and his family began to move with greater purpose. They gathered the last of provisions, tightened ropes, secured jars, led animals toward the ark's great door. The drops of rain, though still gentle, now fell with growing persistence, a steady patter that became a rhythm upon the ground, a rhythm upon the timbers, a rhythm upon every ear. The earth darkened as water soaked into it, dust becoming clay, paths becoming slick, air becoming heavy with moisture. The sky above was no longer pale but layered with gray upon gray, clouds upon clouds, their depths endless, their presence unyielding. Still, the storm did not yet roar. It built slowly, patiently, as though giving every soul upon the earth time to hear, time to notice, time to understand. The drops thickened, the patter deepened, the rhythm spread. Windows were shuttered, fires smoldered in the damp, voices murmured in unease. Yet Noah moved calmly, his steps steady, his face serene. For him the rain was not terror but fulfillment, not loss but passage, not end but beginning. As evening came, the drops grew heavier, their sound upon the roof of the ark like countless hands drumming softly, endlessly. The smell of wet earth rose thick, mingling with the scent of wood and pitch, with the faint fragrance of grain stored within. The light of torches flickered across the rain, each flame glowing faintly through the mist, each spark reminding the watchers that the world, though changing, was not dissolving, but transforming. The rain, in its persistence, became not noise but lullaby, not chaos but rhythm, not terror but inevitability. And as you rest within this vision, let the first drops of rain be your own lullaby. Hear them falling softly, steadily, upon earth and upon wood, as the rhythm of your own breath. Smell the wet earth as the calm drifting of dreams across your thoughts. See the ark rising dark against the gray horizon as the glow behind your eyes. Let the beginning of storm be not frightening but soothing, not burden but release, not loss but passage. For every storm begins in whispers, and every whisper carries you onward, gently, endlessly, into rest. Block 3. The Gathering of Animals. As the rain continued its patient descent, no longer a scattering of drops but a steady curtain whispering upon earth and timber, another movement began, quiet yet undeniable. From fields and forests, from mountains and valleys, from riversides and hidden dens, the animals stirred. It was not by human command that they came, nor by force of ropes or cages. They came as if guided by an unseen rhythm, as if the same hand that called the rain now called them forward. The world that had lived scattered, each creature in its place, now began to converge, their steps unhurried yet purposeful, their presence filling the land with a new silence. Imagine the sight, pairs of creatures moving across the fields, their shapes rising against the mist of rain. Elephants walked slowly, their trunks swaying, their heavy feet pressing the softening soil into deep impressions. Giraffes glided with necks high, their eyes wide and calm, their steps gentle as though measured to the rhythm of eternity. Lions moved with steady dignity, their golden coats gleaming beneath the falling water, their roars subdued into quiet breaths. Birds flew in arcs above, flocks circling and then descending, their wings flashing against the gray sky. Their cries softened into murmurs. Smaller creatures came too, rabbits bounding softly through grass, foxes slipping gracefully from dens, turtles dragging themselves slowly toward the ark's open door. Even insects moved in quiet procession, ants threading their lines, bees humming faintly within the rain. Fish leapt from swollen rivers as though eager to join the great migration. All creation seemed to respond, as if every heart beat to the same call, as if every step, every wing beat, every breath carried the same obedience to an order older than time. Noah and his family stood at the ark, their faces lifted in awe. They did not prod nor push, did not cry out nor force. They opened their hands, they opened the door, and the creatures came. Each pair found its place, each kind settled into its appointed space within the vessel. The great halls of the ark, once empty, now filled with life, their air vibrant with breath, with warmth, with presence. Hay rustled as hooves pressed into it. Wood creaked as weight shifted upon it. The sounds of animals blended into a soft chorus, not of chaos, but of calm, as though even the wildest had laid aside their ferocity in recognition of eternity. The rain outside tapped steadily upon the ark's roof, upon its beams, upon its door. Within, torches glowed faintly, casting light upon feathers, upon fur, upon scales, upon eyes that blinked in quiet patience. The scent of hay and wood mingled with the musk of animals, with the faint sweetness of stored grain, with the perfume of pitch sealing the timbers. The air was heavy, yet it carried no tension. It was as if the ark itself breathed, alive with the rhythm of creation gathered together. Birds perched upon beams, their wings folded neatly. Cats curled upon straw, their eyes closing into sleep. Cattle lay down, chewing slowly, their breath steady. Even predators and prey lay near one another, not in conflict, but in truce, their instincts stilled, their movements subdued, their presence united by something greater than hunger or fear. For in this moment, the ark was not simply wood upon earth. It was the vessel of life, the cradle of survival, the heartbeat of creation sheltered against the storm. Outside, neighbors who had once mocked stood watching. Their voices, which had been filled with laughter and scorn, now grew quiet, uncertain, uneasy. They saw the animals gathering. They saw them entering without force. They saw the door remaining open. Yet their hearts did not stir as the animals did. They lingered in disbelief, their eyes filled with wonder, but their steps unmoving. The rain continued to fall, steady, patient, growing heavier, soaking hair, soaking garments, soaking earth. Yet the gathering did not cease. The procession did not falter. The order did not break. And as the ark filled, Noah's family moved gently among the creatures, guiding them into spaces prepared, ensuring they were settled, ensuring the rhythm of peace remained unbroken. Their voices were soft, their movements calm, their hearts steady. They did not seek chaos but harmony, not burden but blessing, not noise but lullaby. The ark was alive now, a world within the world, a sanctuary carved of wood and faith, carrying the essence of creation into the silence of storm. As you rest within this vision, let the gathering of animals be your own lullaby. Hear their quiet footsteps as the rhythm of your own breath. See their pairs entering in harmony as the calm behind your eyes. Smell the hay and wood as the fragrance of dreams filling your mind. Feel the truce of predator and prey as the stillness settling over you. Let the ark, alive with life, cradle you as it cradled them. Steady, calm, eternal. Block 4. The closing of the door. The rain had not ceased since its first whisper upon the earth, and by now it had become a steady rhythm, a song of water falling without pause. The air outside was thick with mist. The ground softened beneath countless drops, the rivers swelling quietly, their banks already blurred. Within the ark, the procession of creatures had ended. The spaces, once empty, now filled with life. Each pair resting in calm, each kind settled as though they had always belonged here. The ark no longer seemed like a structure of wood alone. It had become a living vessel, breathing with the warmth of creation, vibrating with the rhythm of countless heartbeats. And yet, one step remained before this sanctuary could separate itself from the world that lingered outside in disbelief. It was the closing of the door. Imagine the vast wooden door standing open, its frame darkened by rain, its threshold a border between two worlds. Within, the calm and ordered refuge. Without, the growing unease of people who had gathered, their eyes filled with questions, their garments clinging wet to their skin. They saw the animals resting in impossible harmony. They heard the rain falling without break, and yet their hearts did not move as Noah's had moved. Their faith did not stir as his had stirred. They lingered upon the wet earth, uncertain, while Noah stood at the threshold, his hand upon the heavy wood, his eyes lifted as though waiting for a signal not from men but from eternity. The moment stretched long, the rain tapping upon the ark's beams, the animals shifting softly upon hay, the torches flickering with each draft of air. Then, as if guided by an unseen hand, the door began to move. Whether pushed by Noah's steady arms or by the force of divine will itself, the great door creaked slowly, its hinges groaning, its timbers shuddering. Outside, the voices of those gathered rose faintly. Questions, cries, perhaps even pleas. But the door continued its measured swing, closing inch by inch, narrowing the frame of gray sky, sealing the vessel from the world. The sound of wood meeting wood echoed like thunder within the ark. The heavy bar fell into place, the door sealed, and with that sound, a silence deeper than any before filled the space. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of separation, the silence of protection, the silence of inevitability. The ark was no longer open to doubt, no longer open to disbelief, no longer open to interruption. It had become wholly itself, a sanctuary cradled within storm, a world enclosed, awaiting what was to come. Inside, Noah and his family paused, their breath steady, their eyes closed for a moment in reverence. Around them, the animals rested still. No roars, no cries, no clamor, only the soft sounds of breathing, of hooves shifting, of wings rustling faintly. The rain outside drummed upon the roof, upon the walls, upon the door, but within there was peace. It was the calm of surrender, the calm of trust, the calm of knowing that they were now carried not by their own strength, but by something greater, by a will that had written this passage long before their first steps upon the earth. Outside, the world did not yet understand. The rain, though steady, had not yet become flood. The ground was wet, the rivers swollen, the air heavy. But still there was time, time to doubt, time to scoff, time to linger. Those who had mocked now grew uneasy. Those who had laughed now fell quiet. Those who had ignored now whispered among themselves. Yet the door did not open again. It stood firm, sealed, final, as though eternity itself had placed its weight upon it, as though no hand could move it but the one that had ordained it. Within the ark, lamps glowed softly, their flames steady in the still air. Shadows danced across beams, across the curves of animals, across faces calm with trust. The air smelled of hay, of wood, of oil, of rain faintly seeping through seams. The ark creaked gently as timbers settled, as if it were preparing itself for movement, as if it too knew that soon it would no longer rest upon dry ground, but would rise, carried by waters it had been made to endure. It was a moment of waiting, a moment of suspension, a moment between. The door was closed, the outside world still visible in memory but no longer accessible. The storm not yet at its height, but already inevitable. Inside the ark, the silence was thick yet soothing, like the pause before sleep, like the hush of breath before dream. Every heart within it beat to the same rhythm. Every soul within it shared the same calm. The sense that they were sheltered, the sense that they were carried, the sense that eternity itself was near. As you rest within this vision, let the closing of the door be your own threshold. Feel the weight of its timbers as the weight of blankets upon you. Hear the creak of hinges as the slow settling of your thoughts. Smell the scent of hay and oil as the fragrance of dreams filling your breath. Let the separation be not fear but comfort, not loss but protection, not end but beginning. For every door closed by eternity opens into calm, and every storm faced with trust becomes a lullaby, carrying you into rest. Block 5. The Rising Waters. The rain did not falter. What had begun as a whisper upon the earth, as drops soft enough to resemble dew, grew into a steady drumming, a rhythm that spread across valleys, across hills, across every roof and field. Hour by hour, the sky poured itself out, and the earth, once dry and unyielding, softened, darkened, drank deeply until it could drink no more. The rivers swelled beyond their banks, lakes overflowed their edges. The smallest streams grew fierce and wide. The sound of water became unbroken, constant, a lullaby without pause. It was as though the heavens themselves had opened their gates, and the flood they had long carried now descended without restraint. Inside the ark, Noah and his family moved among the animals, checking the provisions, securing vessels, whispering calm words. The creatures, as if lulled by the rhythm of rain, rested in unusual quiet. The great lions lay with heads upon paws, their breath slow and steady. Birds tucked their wings, their eyes half closed as if listening to the rain outside as to a song. Cattle shifted softly upon straw, the scent of hay warm in the enclosed air. Even the smaller creatures, the mice, the foxes, the owls, seemed subdued, their movements slowed by the hush that wrapped the ark. It was as though the storm outside had become a lullaby within, as though the vessel itself breathed with its own rhythm, steady and unbroken. Then at last, the waters rose. The earth had yielded all it could. Now the waters stood upon it. At first it was puddles forming around the ark, pools spreading into sheets. The soil dissolved into clay. The grass bowed under weight of water. The people outside, who had lingered in disbelief, now found their ankles wet, their garments heavy, their steps uncertain. Still the rain fell. Still the rivers rose. Still the flood spread. And as the waters deepened, the ark, so long settled upon the earth, so long rooted to the ground, began to move. It did not rise suddenly, but slowly, gently, as though lifted by unseen hands. The timbers creaked, the beams groaned, the ropes strained. The sound of wood against earth shifted into the sound of wood against water. The ark tilted slightly, then steadied, then floated. No longer bound to soil, no longer tied to dust, but carried. Within, the animals stirred faintly, their eyes opening, their ears twitching, their bodies sensing the change. Yet there was no panic. The movement was not violent but smooth, not jolting but calm, like a cradle rocked by the rhythm of eternity. Outside, the waters rose without pause. Villages disappeared beneath ripples. Trees sank until only their crowns remained above waves. Hills grew smaller as the flood climbed their sides. Voices, once filled with laughter, now filled with cries. Yet the storm drowned them into the unbroken chorus of rain. The sky, heavy and endless, showed no break, no mercy, only its steady gift of water, pouring, pouring, pouring. It was as though time itself had become water, as though the world was being rewritten not in ink but in waves. The ark floated higher, carried across plains now turned to seas, its hull dark and glistening with rain, its door sealed tight, its windows glowing faintly with torchlight within. It rocked slowly, gently, its movement unhurried, its course unseen but secure. It was not steered by oar nor by sail, not guided by map nor by hand, but carried by will unseen, by waters that had been summoned not for destruction alone but for renewal, for passage, for cleansing. Within, Noah's family sat in silence, listening to the rain above them, listening to the groan of timbers, listening to the endless wash of water. Their breaths slowed, their hearts calmed, for they knew they were not adrift, but sustained, not lost, but carried, not abandoned, but preserved. The ark was no longer wood alone. It was sanctuary, it was womb, it was vessel of eternity. And so the waters rose, and so the ark floated, and so the world was washed away. As you rest within this vision, let the rising waters be not fear, but comfort. Hear their steady fall as the rhythm of your own breath. Feel the ark rocking gently as the weight of blankets surround you. Smell the faint scent of wood and hay as the fragrance of dreams drifting across your mind. See the torchlight glowing softly within as the shimmer behind your eyes. Let the flood be not chaos but calm, not loss but renewal, not end but passage. For every rising tide carries not only silence but rest, not only change but peace. Block 6 and 40 days and nights. The rain did not pause. Day blended into night and night into day, until the passage of time itself became difficult to measure, until the world seemed to dissolve into a single rhythm, the unbroken fall of water. For 40 days and nights, the heavens poured, the earth yielded, the seas rose. And yet within the ark, though the storm was ceaseless, the movement was gentle. The vessel rocked slowly, steadily, its timbers creaking in harmony with the waves, its frame carrying not only Noah and his family, but the living essence of creation itself. Imagine the sound. It was not thunder crashing, not winds screaming, but rain. Always rain. It drummed upon the roof, ran in rivulets down the walls, splashed upon the swelling waters below. It was constant, patient, endless. At first it might have seemed harsh, insistent, even overwhelming. But as the days stretched, its rhythm became familiar, like the beating of a heart, like the breathing of the earth. Inside the ark, the rain became a lullaby, its constancy soothing, its unbroken pattern a reminder that though the world outside was changing, the vessel remained steady. The sanctuary remained whole. Noah's family marked time not by sun or stars, for both were hidden behind veils of cloud, but by the rhythm of tasks. They fed the animals, checked the provisions, whispered prayers in the still air. Their days moved slowly, not hurried, not restless, but suspended, as though time itself had folded into the rocking of the ark, as though the only measure of hours was the rise and fall of its cradle upon the waves. Their nights were much the same, for darkness was constant, light faint, and the sound of rain unending. They drifted between waking and sleeping as though in a single long dream, lulled by water, carried by silence. The animals, too, surrendered to this rhythm. The lions lay with their paws tucked beneath them, their eyes heavy with calm. The doves preened their feathers, then nestled into stillness. The elephants swayed gently with the ark's rocking, their breaths deep and even. Even the restless creatures, the fox, the hawk, the serpent, moved little, subdued by the unbroken lull of rain. The ark was alive with life, yet quiet with rest, as though every being within it had accepted the passage, as though all creation shared the same patience, the same surrender. Outside, the world transformed. Villages disappeared beneath waves, trees vanished beneath waters, mountains shrank as the flood climbed their sides. The familiar contours of earth dissolved, replaced by endless horizons of water. No landmark remained, no boundary endured. The ark floated upon a sea without edge, a mirror of sky and water. Rain falling into rain, waves folding into waves. It was as though the world had returned to its beginning, to the waters before creation, to the silence before light. And yet within the ark there was no fear, for the vessel did not falter, did not leak, did not break. It held firm, each beam sealed, each joint steady, each chamber secure. It floated not by chance but by design, not by strength of men alone but by will greater than their own. And so Noah and his family rested, their trust not in the waters that surrounded them, but in the promise that carried them, the promise that the rain would not last forever, the promise that the dawn of a new world would come. 40 days and nights, words that sound long, yet within the ark time became fluid, dissolved, unmeasured. Each day was the same as the one before, each night the same as the one after. Rain above, water below, rocking within, silence around. And in this monotony there was calm, in this repetition there was peace. For when nothing changes, when the rhythm is unbroken, the mind releases its weight, the body surrenders, the soul rests. As you rest within this vision, Let the 40 days and nights be your own lullaby. Hear the rain falling steadily, unceasing, upon the roof of the ark as the rhythm of your own breath. Feel the rocking of its timbers as the weight of blankets around you. Smell the hay, the wood, the faint oil of lamps as the fragrance of dreams filling your thoughts. See the endless horizon of water as the soft glow behind your eyes. Let the unbroken cycle of rain, the monotony of sound, the constancy of rocking carry you not into restlessness but into sleep, not into fear but into calm, not into silence but into peace. Block 7, the world submerged. The days of rain continued, each one indistinguishable from the last, until at last the waters had claimed everything that once was familiar. Where once there had been fields of grain swaying in the wind, there was now only a vast sheet of gray water. Where villages had stood, their rooftops dotted with lamps in the night, there was nothing but rippling waves stretching toward the horizon. The mountains, once proud and immovable, sank beneath the rising flood, their peaks disappearing one by one, swallowed gently yet inevitably, until even they were no more than memories hidden beneath the sea. The earth itself seemed to vanish, dissolved into water, washed clean of all that had been. The world was submerged, silent and endless, and above its surface floated only the ark, small yet steady, a cradle of life adrift in an ocean without end. Imagine standing upon the deck of that vessel, your eyes searching for landmarks and finding none. Everywhere you look, water. The horizon is unbroken, a circle of gray-blue stretching into mist, without hill, without tree, without shore. The sky is heavy with clouds, layers upon layers of them, their bellies dark, their edges glowing faintly with light filtered through. The rain still falls, though softer now, less violent, more like a steady veil between heaven and earth. The sound of it merges with the sound of waves, until all that exists is a single endless rhythm, the heartbeat of water. The ark moves gently, rocked by swells that rise and fall like the breath of a sleeping giant. Its timbers groan softly, its frame sways with patience. It does not fight the waves, does not resist them, but yields to their rhythm, floating as it was meant to float, carried where it was meant to be carried. Within, the animals rest still, subdued by the motion, lulled into quiet by the unbroken rocking. Noah's family moves softly too, their voices hushed, their steps measured, their tasks unhurried. There is no need for haste, for there is nowhere to go, nothing to pursue, only to endure, only to wait, only to rest. The world outside the ark has become formless, as if creation itself had returned to its beginning. Before light was spoken, the scriptures tell us, there were waters covering the deep, and now once more the earth has dissolved into that primordial silence. It is as though time has been rewound, as though the ark floats not only upon water but upon the edge of new beginnings. The flood is not merely destruction, it is a cleansing, a return to stillness, a preparation for renewal. Beneath the surface, seeds lie dormant, roots sleep, mountains wait in silence, all held beneath the waters until the moment when they will rise again. The people outside who once laughed and doubted are gone now, their voices silenced, their presence erased. The earth itself is silent, emptied of clamor, emptied of markets, emptied of noise. All that remains is the ark, a single vessel of life, a small yet complete world held above the waves, glowing faintly with torchlight, humming with the breath of animals, anchored not to earth but to faith. And still the waters rise, their surface gleaming with the pale light of day, their depths dark and infinite. At night, when the rain lessens and the sky clears faintly, the stars return, reflected upon the vast mirror of the flood. To look upon them is to feel suspended between two skies, one above, one below. Both infinite, both calm, both whispering of eternity. The ark drifts quietly between them, its lanterns glowing softly, its timbers creaking gently, its movement as steady as the rhythm of breath. Inside, the sense of waiting deepens, but it is not waiting in fear. It is waiting in trust, in patience, in surrender. The family gathers for prayer, their voices low, rising softly like smoke from incense. The animals stir and then settle again, their breathing blending into the hush. Sleep comes often, broken only by small tasks, then returns again, as though the entire ark itself has become a dream, floating upon waters that carry it not into danger, but into peace. As you rest within this vision, let the world submerged be not frightening but soothing. See the endless horizon of water as the soft glow behind your eyes. Hear the rain's rhythm as the cadence of your own breath. Feel the ark rocking gently as the weight of blankets upon you. Let the absence of landmarks, the dissolution of boundaries, the return to water, carry you not into fear of loss, but into calm of renewal, into trust of passage, into peace of forever. Block 8, Waiting in the Ark. Time inside the ark did not move as it once had upon the earth. Without sun to rise or set, without stars to measure the night, without land to mark distance or horizon to show change, days and nights blended into a single long hush. What remained was rhythm, the steady patter of rain above, the groan of timbers as they shifted with waves, the gentle rocking of the vessel as it floated between sky and water. Waiting became not a burden, but a condition of existence, a surrender into eternity's pace, a patience that softened every thought, every breath, every step. Within the ark, light came not from the sun, but from lamps flickering upon beams. Their glow was soft, golden, steady, spreading warmth across the wooden walls, catching upon the straw, shimmering faintly upon jars of water and baskets of grain. The air was heavy with the mingled scents of hay, animals, oil, and damp wood, a fragrance both strange and familiar, both earthy and sacred. The sounds of creatures filled the silence not with clamor, but with life. The low murmur of cattle, the faint rustle of birds shifting upon perches, the quiet sighs of animals at rest. It was as if the ark itself had become a single living being, breathing, humming, waiting. Noah's family moved quietly through the vessel. They tended the animals, refilled troughs, gathered eggs, spread hay, whispered to restless creatures until they stilled again. Their tasks were unending, yet unhurried, as though time itself had dissolved into cycles of care. They ate in silence, prayed in silence, slept in silence, their voices low, their footsteps softened by straw. The outside world was gone, washed away. What remained was this sanctuary, this enclosed rhythm, this dreamlike suspension above the waters. The rain, still falling, became part of every breath, part of every thought. It tapped upon the roof in countless patterns, merged with the creak of the ark, blended with the sighs of animals, until it was no longer sound but presence, a constant that wrapped around everything. The rain no longer startled nor disturbed. It soothed, it steadied, it reminded. It was like a lullaby sung not once but endlessly, weaving itself into sleep, into dreams, into patience. The waters outside stretched infinite, unbroken, a mirror without edge. Through small openings, Noah could sometimes glimpse the gray expanse, the horizon dissolved, the waves rising and falling in endless repetition. Yet he did not fear the monotony. He trusted it. The ark rose and fell, drifted and turned, yet never faltered, never failed. It floated as it was meant to float, carried where it was meant to be carried, sustained not by strength of men, but by will greater than storm. Inside, Waiting became its own kind of prayer. Each breath was surrender, each heartbeat obedience, each moment a step deeper into trust. Noah's family did not count the days, for counting mattered little when each one was the same. They endured not with restlessness but with calm, not with impatience but with faith. Their waiting was not emptiness but fullness, filled with life, filled with presence, filled with the certainty that this passage was not endless, but purposeful, not aimless, but guided. The animals too surrendered to waiting. They no longer sought the fields or skies they had left. They no longer strained against the walls. They settled into straw, into nests, into corners of calm. Their breaths rose and fell, their eyes closed, their bodies rested. Predator and prey shared silence, their instincts hushed, their movements subdued, as though all creation itself had learned the art of waiting, the art of stillness, the art of patience. Outside, the waters did not yet recede. They covered the mountains, filled the valleys, stretched across the earth in unbroken sheets. Yet even in this endlessness there was no despair, for the ark floated steady, its timbers strong, its chambers whole. It was as though the flood, though vast, had become cradle rather than grave, as though the waters, though deep, had become pathway rather than prison. And so the waiting continued, long and steady, until waiting itself became eternity, until patience itself became prayer, until silence itself became peace. As you rest within this vision, let the waiting in the ark be your own lullaby. Hear the rain's unbroken rhythm as the cadence of your breath. Feel the rocking of the vessel as the weight of blankets upon you. Smell the hay and oil as the fragrance of dreams drifting softly into your thoughts. Let the monotony of time, the suspension of movement, the surrender of waiting, carry you not into restlessness, but into calm, not into longing, but into peace, not into fear, but into sleep. Block 9. The Long Drift. The ark floated endlessly, its hull lifted upon the surface of waters that seemed to have no end, no edge, no shore. Days and nights dissolved into each other, the rhythm of rain slowly softening until it was no longer downpour but mist, no longer hammering but whispering. And still the waters remained, vast and unbroken, stretching across horizons blurred with sky. The world had become a sea, an ocean without beginning or end, and upon it drifted the ark, small yet steady, carrying life in silence. Imagine that drifting. There was no sail to guide, no rudder to steer, no destination upon any map. The ark moved as the waters moved, rocked as the waves rocked, turned as the currents turned. It was not directed by human hand, not claimed by human will, but carried by something greater, something unseen, something steady. Inside, Noah and his family surrendered to this movement, letting themselves be borne wherever the waters willed. There was no struggle, no resistance, no fear, only trust, only patience, only calm. The sky itself seemed endless. Clouds stretched wide, layered in grays and whites, sometimes glowing faintly with filtered light, sometimes darkening with heavy shadow. At times the clouds parted, and shafts of sun spilled across the waters, turning them into sheets of gold, gleaming like metal hammered smooth. At night, when the skies cleared, stars returned in dazzling number, reflected upon the waters until the ark floated between two heavens, one above, one below, both infinite, both calm, both whispering of eternity. Inside the vessel, life continued in its slow rhythm. Noah's family tended the animals, their tasks unchanging, their voices low. They moved in circles of care, feeding, watering, watching, then resting, then repeating. Time no longer felt like hours but like cycles. A pattern that echoed the rocking of the ark itself. A pattern that lulled them deeper into patience. The animals accepted the drift as well. The doves tucked their heads beneath their wings, sleeping for long stretches. The oxen chewed hay steadily, their breaths even and warm. The lions lay quiet, their tails flicking softly, their strength subdued into stillness. Even the smallest of creatures, mice in the straw, insects hidden in wood, seemed calmed by the monotony, surrendered to the slow dream of drifting. Outside, there was no sound but water. Waves lapped gently against the hull. Rain tapped faintly upon the roof. The currents whispered beneath. It was an unbroken song, steady and soothing, carrying the ark as a mother carries a child, rocking, rocking, rocking. At times the water swelled higher, lifting the vessel, tilting it softly before settling again. At times the waves stretched flat, the surface still as glass, the ark gliding without resistance, a shadow upon a mirror. Each change was subtle, each moment slow, as though the entire world had been wrapped in patience, wrapped in silence, wrapped in dream. Noah, sitting by the narrow window, looked out upon this endlessness. His eyes did not search for land, for he knew it was gone. He looked instead at the sky mirrored upon water, at the ripples stretching outward, at the faint glow of dawn dissolving into dusk. His trust was not in what he could see, but in what he could not. Not in land, but in promise. Not in direction, but in care. His family joined him. Their prayers whispered not in urgency, but in gratitude. Their voices calm, their hearts steady. They waited, not knowing when the waters would fall, not knowing when earth would return, but certain that it would. And so the ark drifted, long and steady, carried without map, guided without hand, sustained without end. The flood was vast, yet the ark endured. The waters were endless, yet the vessel remained. The world had been washed away, yet within the ark, life breathed, life rested, life waited. As you rest within this vision, let the long drift be your own lullaby. Hear the whisper of waves as the rhythm of your breath. Feel the rocking of the ark as the weight of blankets upon you. See the reflection of stars upon water as the glow behind your eyes. Let the endless horizon carry you not into fear of distance, but into calm of surrender. Not into restlessness, but into patience. Not into silence, but into sleep. Block 10, the raven and the dove. The days of drifting stretched on. The ark moving without destination across waters that still covered every horizon. The rain had long ceased. The sky had cleared into pale brightness by day and vast constellations by night. Yet the sea remained unbroken, endless and patient. Noah and his family tended their tasks as always, caring for the animals, whispering prayers, resting in the rhythm of rocking. And still the question lingered silently in every heart. When would the earth return? When would the waters yield? When would the promise of land, of fields, of trees, of life renewed appear again? It was then that Noah turned his eyes toward the heavens, not only to pray but to seek guidance. The ark had no sail, no rudder, no path marked upon water, yet the skies were alive with wings, and so he chose to send forth the birds. Their flight would tell what his eyes could not. Their wings would reach farther than the ark could drift, their instincts carrying them where human hope could not. First he released the raven, its black wings beating strong against the pale sky. It circled once above the ark, its cry harsh yet steady, then flew outward across the waters, its form shrinking into distance, until it became no more than a dot upon horizon. The family watched in silence, their faces lifted, their breath stilled. The raven did not return that day nor the next, but its absence did not disturb them. For ravens are wanderers, content to circle endlessly, content to rest upon driftwood or carcass. Its silence was neither hope nor despair, but Noah knew it was not the final sign. He waited with patience, his heart steady. his trust unbroken. Then after more days of rocking upon the flood, he sent the dove. Smaller, gentler, with feathers pale against the vast blue, it fluttered softly from his hands, wings catching the light as it lifted into the sky. Its cry was not harsh but tender, its flight not forceful but calm. The ark rocked gently as they watched it vanish into distance, gliding low above waters that mirrored the sky. Hours passed, and when the sun tilted toward horizon, the dove returned. It circled the ark, its wings shimmering in last light, and alighted upon Noah's hand, weary and empty, carrying no sign but its own return. The family sighed, not in despair but in patience, for they knew that waiting was not yet ended, that the waters still lay deep. 7 days later, Noah released the dove again. Once more it fluttered into distance, gliding above waves, its small body swallowed by horizon. This time it did not return empty. As twilight fell, the sound of its wings grew near, and in its beak it carried a small branch, freshly plucked, still green, still alive, an olive leaf, a whisper of earth, a sign of land, a promise that beneath the waters life waited, that trees still grew, that the world would rise again. Noah's family gathered around, their eyes wide, their hearts lifting with calm. They did not shout, they did not weep. They breathed deeply, letting the certainty settle into their bones, letting the promise steady their spirits. Again, Noah waited 7 days, and once more he released the dove. This time it did not return. It had found its place, its tree, its rest. And with that absence came confirmation. The waters had receded, the earth was returning, the flood was yielding, the promise was near. Within the ark, the animals stirred, as if sensing the change, as if their instincts felt what eyes could not yet see. The cattle rose and shifted. The birds sang faintly within their enclosures. The lions lifted their heads and sniffed the air. Even the silence outside seemed different, less heavy, less endless, carrying within it the faint scent of soil, the faint whisper of wind moving through leaves not yet visible. The ark still rocked, still floated, but now it carried more than waiting. It carried hope, it carried renewal, it carried the certainty of land near at hand. As you rest within this vision, let the raven and the dove be not symbols of distance, but lullabies of return. Hear the beating of wings as the rhythm of your breath. See the olive leaf glowing green as the shimmer behind your eyes. Feel the ark rocking gently as the weight of blankets upon you. Let the flight of birds remind you that waiting always ends, that silence always breaks, that hope always returns, not with thunder but with the soft flutter of wings, not with clamor but with calm, not with fear but with peace. Block 11. The mountain's first sight. The ark drifted on, carried still by waters that had seemed without end, but now something in their rhythm was changing. The endless rocking that had once felt like eternity began to soften, and the air itself carried a difference, a faint sharpness as though wind moved across stone somewhere unseen, as though the earth was breathing beneath the flood again. Noah, patient and steady, opened the narrow window, and his eyes searched the horizon, not for birds now, but for shapes rising from the water. And in time, his gaze met what he had long trusted would come. The first peaks, the first mountaintops, emerging like islands from the sea, dark against the pale sky, patient as guardians returning from silence. Imagine the sight. For weeks the world had been a mirror of sky, unbroken water stretching to every horizon. Now, out of that monotony, forms began to rise, jagged, solemn, immovable. Mountains that had been swallowed by waves now stood once more, their shoulders glistening with damp, their crowns kissed by mist. They did not roar, they did not emerge suddenly. but revealed themselves slowly, steadily, as though reminding Noah and his family that eternity moves at its own pace, that renewal is patient, that the return of Earth is as gentle as dawn spreading across sky. Within the ark, a murmur stirred. The animals shifted, their bodies restless, not with fear but with awareness. The doves cooed softly, wings fluttering in their cages. The oxen stamped upon straw, their breath warm and eager. The lions lifted their heads, their eyes bright, their ears turned toward sounds only they could sense. The hush of water against stone, the faint cry of wind across peaks. Even the smallest creatures stirred, as though the very pulse of earth rising beneath waters echoed through their bones. Noah's family gathered near the window, their eyes wide, their breaths held. They did not shout. They did not celebrate with clamor. They simply gazed, their hearts filling with calm. To see mountains again was to see promise, to see stability, to see the hand of eternity lifting creation once more. Their prayers rose softly, words of gratitude whispered like incense into the still air, their voices weaving with the sound of waves lapping against the ark. Outside, the waters continued to recede, though slowly, though patiently. Valleys were still drowned, plains still hidden, but the peaks stood clear, marking the beginning of return. The ark, no longer drifting endlessly across featureless horizon, now floated near to these mountains, its timbers creaking as currents pressed it gently toward the heights. At last, upon the slopes of Ararat, the vessel came to rest. It did not crash, did not shudder, did not break. It settled quietly, as though placing itself upon the earth's shoulder, as though the long journey of rocking had found its pause. The world outside was still submerged, but the promise was near. Above, the sky cleared more often, the sun shone longer, the stars gleamed brighter. The air smelled sharper, fresher, carrying within it the breath of stone, the faint fragrance of soil, though still hidden, though still waiting. Within, Noah's family felt the change not as impatience but as hope, not as urgency but as calm assurance. They knew the waters would fall in their time, the valleys would emerge, the earth would be renewed. For now, it was enough to see peaks, enough to rest upon rock, enough to trust. And so the ark, which had floated long upon endless seas, now became still, resting upon mountain, waiting as the world below reshaped itself, waiting as the waters fell, waiting as eternity prepared the next step. Within, the silence deepened, not of fear, but of peace, not of emptiness, but of presence. The ark no longer drifted, it waited. Noah no longer searched, he trusted. The animals no longer stirred, they rested. And all of creation seemed to breathe in rhythm with the mountain's first sight, with the promise of earth returning, with the certainty that waiting always leads to renewal. As you rest within this vision, let the sight of mountains be your own calm. See their peaks rising steady as the glow behind your eyes. Hear the ark settling gently upon them as the rhythm of your breath. Feel the stillness of resting upon stone as the weight of blankets around you. Let the patience of waters receding, the promise of earth returning, carry you not into longing, but into trust. Not into restlessness, but into peace. Not into silence, but into sleep. Block 12, the new earth. The ark rested upon the mountain, its timbers firm against stone, while the waters continued their slow retreat. It did not happen in an instant, nor with suddenness, but in a long unfolding, as patient as dawn spreading across the sky. Day by day, the flood receded, drawn back into valleys, sinking into earth, dispersing into seas. The endless mirror of water that had once swallowed every horizon began to break, its surface pierced by shapes not seen for many months. Hills rising dark and damp, forests emerging with dripping leaves, plains stretching wide though still glistening with moisture. The new earth revealed itself slowly, as though awakening from deep sleep, as though breathing again after long silence. Imagine the first glimpse of green. At first it was only the faint shimmer of moss clinging to rock, the sheen of damp grasses bowing under droplets. Then, as days stretched, small plants lifted their heads, leaves unfolding toward light, roots drinking eagerly of the softened soil. Trees long hidden beneath the flood now stood again, their branches heavy with water, their bark darkened, their crowns reaching upward with renewed strength. The air grew fragrant once more, filled with the scent of soil, of sap, of growth returning. Where once there had been only the smell of rain and wood, now there was the perfume of life reborn. Noah opened the window and gazed upon the world with eyes both weary and renewed. The sky stretched clear, bright and blue, the clouds scattered and thin, the sun warm upon his face. Birds fluttered within the ark, restless, sensing the change, their wings beating against the wooden beams as though eager to return to the sky. The cattle stirred, the sheep bleated softly, the lion sniffed the air with low growls of recognition. Even the smallest creatures, the mice, the beetles, the bees, seemed to tremble with anticipation, their instincts stirring as if they too knew the earth had awakened. The ark, once a cradle drifting without destination, now stood still, its rocking ended, its journey complete. Inside, the family moved in silence, preparing for what was to come. They prayed together, their voices low, their words filled not with urgency, but with gratitude. Their hearts lifted not with fear, but with calm. They waited patiently for the sign to open the door, for the moment when the world outside would be ready, when the time of waiting would yield to the time of return. Outside, the world was transformed. The waters had swept clean the earth, leaving it quiet, leaving it renewed. There were no voices of doubt now, no laughter of mockery, no marketplaces, no cities. Only silence stretched across the hills, a silence that was not empty but full of potential, a silence waiting to be filled again with life. It was as though the earth itself had been reborn, as though it had been washed not only of soil but of memory, not only of sound but of shadow, prepared to begin anew. The sun rose each morning upon this new earth, its rays spreading gold across the slopes, its warmth awakening the soil. The stars glowed each night above it, mirrored in rivers that once more found their courses, shining upon plains that stretched wide, upon forests that whispered with leaves, upon waters that now lay calm within their boundaries. The new earth was not harsh, not forbidding. It was soft, receptive, waiting, and Noah's heart, steady as it had been through building, through flood, through waiting, now rested in peace. For the world was not lost. It had been washed. It had been renewed. It had been returned. The promise had not failed. The silence had not endured forever. The storm had not destroyed but prepared. The ark, once sanctuary, would soon open, and life would step out again, barefoot upon damp soil, beneath skies washed clean, into a world that shimmered with promise. As you rest within this vision, let the new earth be your own calm. See its green fields as the glow behind your eyes. Smell its fragrance of soil and leaf as the drifting of dreams across your thoughts. Hear its silence as the rhythm of your breath. Feel its renewal as the weight of blankets upon you. Let the return of earth, the rebirth of creation, the patience of promise fulfilled, carry you not into longing but into peace, not into fear but into trust, not into silence but into sleep. Lock 13, the rainbow of promise. At last the waiting ended. The ark, which had rocked for so long upon restless waters, and then rested in stillness upon the shoulders of mountains, opened its door once more. The bar was lifted, the hinges groaned, and light spilled into the vessel, not the muted glow of lamps nor the filtered shimmer through narrow windows, but the full brilliance of a sky washed clean. Noah and his family stepped out, their feet sinking into damp soil, soft and fragrant, rich with the scent of new earth. Behind them the animals stirred one by one, emerging into the open, their eyes wide, their breath steaming in cool air, their bodies trembling not with fear but with wonder. The world was theirs again, yet it was not the world they had known. It was quieter, softer, renewed. Imagine that first breath of air after months within the ark. It carried the fragrance of soil, freshly opened after long drowning. It carried the sweetness of grass already beginning to grow. It carried the coolness of streams now returning to their beds, the freshness of leaves trembling upon branches washed by rain. The sun shone upon the land, spreading warmth upon rocks, upon plains, upon the waters that still shimmered in valleys. Everything glowed as though creation itself had been reborn, as though the earth, like a child washed after birth, had been cleansed and prepared for new life. The animals scattered, yet not in chaos. The doves lifted into the sky, wings flashing in sunlight, their cries soft and calm. The lions padded across wet ground, their paws sinking into soil, their manes damp but gleaming. Cattle wandered slowly toward green shoots sprouting faintly upon hillsides. Even the smallest creatures, the mice, the bees, the ants, moved with purpose, carrying the rhythm of survival into this world reborn. Each step, each wing beat, each cry was not only instinct, but celebration, a hymn of life continuing. Noah and his family built an altar upon the ground. Stones were lifted one by one, placed with care, until a simple shape stood, not grand, not ornate, but sufficient. Upon it, they offered their gratitude, their voices low, their hearts lifted. Smoke rose gently into the sky, curling upward, dissolving into air, carrying with it the essence of trust, the fragrance of faith, the surrender of hearts that had endured silence, endured waiting, endured flood. It was not sacrifice alone, but thanksgiving, not ritual alone, but prayer embodied in flame, gratitude embodied in smoke. And then above them, across the vast expanse of sky, appeared the promise. The rainbow stretched wide, its arc shimmering with colors the flood had washed clean, each band glowing against the pale clouds, each hue soft yet vivid, each curve spanning horizon to horizon. It was not merely light refracted, not merely water bent into color, but a covenant, a whisper of eternity written upon the sky. To Noah and his family, it was assurance that the waters would never again swallow the earth, that the storm had ended not only in silence but in promise, that the world was renewed not only in soil, but in spirit. Imagine standing there, your feet upon damp soil, your eyes lifted to that arc of light. The air is still, the world quiet, the animals resting, the family silent in awe. Above you the rainbow glows, patient, steady, unbroken, a bridge of light between earth and heaven, a whisper of eternity painted upon the firmament. In its glow, fear dissolves, sorrow fades, and only calm remains. The storm is past, the silence has broken, the promise endures. And so the story rests here, upon new earth beneath a new sky, with a covenant stretching above like a lullaby of color. The ark has fulfilled its purpose, the flood has receded, life has stepped forth again. What was washed away remains only as memory. What endures is trust, renewal, peace. As you rest within this vision, let the rainbow of promise be your own calm. See its arc glowing softly as the shimmer behind your eyes. Hear the hush of renewed earth as the rhythm of your breath. Feel the soil beneath your feet as the weight of blankets around you. Let the covenant of eternity carry you not into fear of storms past, but into peace of promises kept. Not into silence of loss, but into sleep of renewal. And if this journey through the flood has eased your thoughts, if the waters rising and receding, the ark rocking, the waiting, and the promise have carried you gently into calm, you may, in your own time, choose to let your presence be felt here as well. You may softly like this video. Leave a comment sharing which part of Noah's story rests most deeply within you. Share it with another who longs for calm horizons. Or subscribe so that each new tale may find you whenever the night is long and sleep is near. There is no urgency, only invitation, as gentle as the arc of light itself, as soft as the rainbow of promise.